Lily walks through the streets, trying to stay positive, but everything looks dull and gray to her. No matter where she looks, people wear the same blank faces. She keeps walking, hoping to find something that brings color back into her world. Then she sees it, the game center. Just the sight of it makes her heart race. Color seems to return to her vision, and without thinking, she runs toward the door and pushes it open with excitement. Inside, the game center is full of bright lights and buzzing sounds. Games light up the room and people laugh and play. Lily walks to the claw machine, her eyes locked on a cute cola toy. She carefully moves the claw, focusing hard. Grabs the toy, but fails to even lift it for a few seconds. She shrieks in surprise, embarrassed. Nearby, Renji, a staff member, is carrying boxes. He notices Lily's failed attempt and sighs quietly. Frustrated, Lily curses out loud, surprising Renji. He didn't expect the girl to speak English, but instead of walking away, she stubbornly puts in another token to try again. Renji smirks. He knows how hard it is to win from that claw machine. Before he can watch more, one of his co-workers calls him, snapping him out of his thoughts. 3 hours pass and Lily is still glued to the claw machine. Renji's shift finally ends, and as he heads toward the exit, something catches his eye. Lily, still playing. He can't believe it. 3 hours have gone by and she hasn't moved on. He looks closer. The koala stuffed toy she's been trying to win hasn't even budged. He shakes his head and mutters under his breath, calling it the cruel koala. Lily is down to her last token. Her hands tremble as she pulls it from her pocket. Renji, still nearby, notices her frustration. Finally, he decides to step in. Without warning, he snatches the token from her hand and drops it into the neighboring claw machine. Lily starts to protest, but stops when she sees Renji's strategy in action. He carefully aims for a koala stuffed toy wearing a shirt, using the shirt as leverage to hook it more easily. Surprisingly, the claw grabs the toy and drops it right into the prized chute. Lily stares in disbelief. It actually worked. She claps her hands in amusement, still stunned. But what surprises her even more is when Renji casually hands the toy over to her without hesitation. She notices the koala's odd, grumpy face and Renji's awkward smile. The toy looks a little cursed. To lighten the mood, Renji tries to speak to Lily using the little English he knows, telling her the toy is a present. Unsure of what else to say, he glances around and spots a Valentine's Day poster behind him. Using it as an excuse, he smiles and greets her with a happy Valentine's Day. He offers the toy again, saying it's for the occasion. Lily is still hesitant, but eventually accepts it. She hugs the koala tightly and thanks Renji for the gift. Although Renji doesn't understand everything she says, he catches enough to know she's happy. Watching her eyes light up as she clutches the toy, Renji guesses she truly loves it. Even after she leaves the game center, she's still smiling. Later that night, Lily sits on her bed holding the koala close. She examines its grumpy face, then laughs softly. But as her thoughts drift back to Renji, she starts to blush. Embarrassed, she hides her face behind the stuffed toy, hugging it tightly again. Suddenly, Lily's mom enters the room and sees her hugging the koala tightly. Noticing how much Lily adores the stuffed toy, her mom smiles and playfully teases her about it. The next day, Renji is inspecting the claw machines with a colleague when they notice someone peeking from behind. It's Lily. Renji's coworker asks if something happened, but Renji denies it, confused by her strange behavior. Still, Lily keeps peeking from behind a claw machine, so Renji approaches her once his coworker walks away. Lily pretends to be casually playing, acting like she's just there for the game. But when she moves the claw, it accidentally knocks over the entire shelf of prizes. Both of them burst into laughter. Since Renji's shift is ending, he offers to guide Lily around the game center. However, they quickly realize how hard it is to communicate. Renji's English is rough and Lily doesn't understand Japanese at all. Even so, they make several clumsy attempts to talk, and eventually, they just end up laughing at how silly their efforts are. That day, they spend their time playing games. The first is a car racing game which only makes Lily anxious. She struggles to stay on the road and ends up crashing repeatedly, even driving the wrong way until she finally loses. Next, she tries the drum game. This one is easier and catches her interest more. After that, they play a block stacking game against each other. Lily thinks she's about to win, but Renji surprises her by winning in one move. Despite the fun, Lily still seems shy, and Renji senses that she hasn't fully opened up to him yet. Wanting to make her comfortable, he buys 2 sodas from the vending machine and hands her one. While they drink, Renji asks her what she wants to do next. Lily doesn't answer right away, but her eyes wander toward a nearby photo booth. Though she doesn't say anything, Renji picks up on her gaze and realizes what she's thinking. However, it isn't the photo booth they enter. Instead, Renji stops at a game nearby, thinking that's what Lily was eyeing. He encourages her to try it, excited by the idea, and Lily, who is still too shy to correct him, simply goes along with it, though the game is nothing like what she wanted. As the game begins, Lily freezes, clearly overwhelmed. Thankfully, Renji quickly shoots it down and even impersonates the main character on the game, saying his catchphrase. Seeing Renji's enthusiasm, Lily slowly gets into it. She raises the fake gun, takes aim, and starts shooting the on-screen monsters. Bit by bit, she becomes more confident. A few moments later, Lily quickly picks up the game. She takes down all the enemies on screen one by one. When the boss appears, she focuses even harder, firing non-stop like a real pro already. Her skills also draw the attention of some people nearby, watching in awe as she dominates the game. Then finally, with one final shot, the boss falls defeated. Renji cheers for her, impressed by how fast she improved. After the game, they walk around the arcade again, looking for something new to try. That's when Lily's eyes drift back to the claw machines. This time, she is aiming for a box koala toy that catches her attention. But before they head there, she finally gathers the courage to lead Renji toward the photo booth. They snap a few pictures together before proceeding to the claw machine. Lily starts operating the claw machine, but just like before, the toy barely moves. Renji offers to help, but she firmly refuses. This time, she wants to win it herself. Renji can only sigh, knowing how tough these machines are. Still, he stands by and watches. After several attempts, something finally shifts. Lily manages to move the box closer to the prized chute. With one more try, the toy drops and she wins at last. Later, Renji waits outside the game center holding the earlier winnings. When Lily appears, he hands her the bag and prepares to say goodbye. But before he can leave, Lily suddenly stops him and holds out the toy she just won. She wants to give it to him as thanks for the call he gave her. Renji hesitates, unsure whether to accept, but Lily insists. Without waiting for his answer, she shoves it into his hands and runs off quickly, too flustered to say anything more. Renji wonders if the only reason Lily worked so hard to win the toy was to give him something in return. As he inspects the prize, his attention shifts to a small card attached to it. Since it's written in English, he assumes she's just greeting him for Valentine's Day. But then a thought strikes him. He realizes that he doesn't even know her name. That night, while sipping his coffee in his room, Renji decides to look up the English phrase written on the card Lily gave him. To his shock, it translates to "be my lover." He instantly spits out his coffee and yells in surprise. Digging deeper into English customs, he learns that in England it's tradition for a guy to give a girl a gift on Valentine's Day as a way of confessing his love. This makes Renji recall the koala toy he gave Lily. She must have misunderstood it as a love confession. Realizing how serious the misunderstanding might be, Renji clutches his head and lets out another frustrated scream. His outburst prompts his sister to barge into his room, scolding him for being so loud in the middle of the night. The next day, Lily returns to the game center. She peeks through the door, clearly looking for someone. What she doesn't know is that Renji is actually standing right behind her, watching her quietly. When he finally calls out, Lily jumps in surprise and without a word rushes into the game center. Renji follows her, but every time he gets close, Lily dashes off again. They end up running all over the arcade, weaving between machines. His colleague, confused to see him there on his day off, watches as Renji chases Lily like it's a game. Lily hides behind machines, ducking out of sight, but Renji doesn't give up. They eventually make it upstairs, laughing and catching their breath. It no longer feels like a chase. It feels like a game of tag between two kids. Finally, Renji catches up and gently stops her, their hands touching each other. Without a word, he hands her a gift, something square, neatly wrapped. Lily finds a notebook inside. She flips through the pages and finds out that they're filled with Renji's handwritten notes, his personal details, thoughts, and even the things he's always wanted to say to her. Since Renji isn't fluent in English, he spends hours researching and translating everything he wants to say to Lily into her language the night before. He writes everything down, hoping she can understand him through reading, even if speaking is still difficult. In the notebook, he mentions the card Lily gave him. While he's flattered that she seems interested in him, he gently explains that he can't accept her wish. As Lily reads, her expression dims. Renji writes that they can't be lovers right now because they barely know each other, not even their names. That's why he prepared the notebook, so they can get to know each other better. Page by page, maybe they'll grow closer. He even hopes it might help improve his English. After reading, Lily quietly closes the notebook and walks up to Renji. She boldly vows to make him fall in love with her, catching Renji off guard. His stunned reaction startles Lily, so she playfully hits him and bolts away. But before disappearing completely, she turns around, smiles, and formally introduces herself. Her name is Lily Baker, and she waves goodbye, leaving Renji standing there. Renji is flustered upon finally learning her name, but gathers his courage and tries his best to reply in English. His awkward response only makes Lily smile and laugh. Still, neither of them can bring themselves to say goodbye. They keep exchanging words one after another as Lily slowly walks out the door. That's how Renji meets Lily Baker, and how their unexpected cultural exchange at the game center begins. It's another busy day at the game center, and Renji is stocking prizes at the claw machine when Lily waves and greets him. She hands him the notebook they've been exchanging, and he accepts it with a small smile. They began sharing the notebook to learn more about each other's cultures. Through it, Renji learned that Lily moved from England to Japan just a few months ago. Despite her love for Japanese games and anime, she still struggles with the language, making it difficult for her to connect with others. That's why she started visiting the game center instead. Her time in Japan hasn't been easy, but Renji wants to help lighten it. Lily stands in front of Renji, patiently waiting for him to notice something different about her. He tries to guess but fails miserably, leaving Lily frustrated. It isn't until his two coworkers greet her and compliment her new dress and hairstyle that her face lights up. Only then does Renji realize what she was trying to show him. Cultural exchange really does have its challenges. The next day, Lily is dropped off at school by her dad. As she walks to her classroom, she greets everyone in Japanese with a cheerful smile. Hotaru, the class president, notices how most students are still hesitant around Lily. Wanting to change that, she flips through a book, searching for the right English phrase to greet her. Before Hotaru can speak, another student beats her to it. A girl steps forward and greets Lily confidently in English. She introduces herself as Aoi and says she'd like to be friends since they're in the same class. Aoi's effort to speak in English surprises Lily, and she quickly understands. Aoi notices the small koala keychain dangling from Lily's bag and comments on how cute it is. Lily, however, disagrees. She insists the koala is cool. The two of them begin playfully debating about the koala's charm. Meanwhile, Hotaru is still sitting nearby, flipping through her book, determined to learn English. Later that evening, she heads straight to her older brother, Renji, and makes a request. She wants to become a Game Center pro in a day. Renji looks at her with surprise. His sister has never shown any interest in arcade games, usually spending her time on athletics. When he asks why, Aoi explains that she's going to the Game Center with a new friend tomorrow and wants to impress her. She adds that her friend is a transfer student from overseas who struggles with Japanese and hasn't made many friends yet. Renji pauses for a moment. That description. It sounds oddly familiar, but he shrugs it off, assuming it must just be coincidence. However, Aoi continues her story, casually mentioning that her new friend met a Game Center employee who helped her win a prize at the claw machine. She says it so cheerfully, explaining that she wants to do the same to grow closer to her. But then she adds that the employee apparently confessed his love to her friend. At that moment, Renji chokes on his coffee and spits it out in shock. Suspicious, Aoi asks if he is that employee. Renji collapses dramatically onto the floor when their mother suddenly scolds both of them for being too noisy. While Renji tries to explain himself, Aoi shrugs and laughs it off, deciding it can't be him after all. No normal guy would go around declaring love to middle school girls. That would be creepy. The next day, Aoi and Lily head to the Game Center as planned. Aoi steps up to the claw machine first, but fails to secure a prize, blaming Renji for not teaching her the trick properly. Lily tries next, putting all of her focus into it, but even with careful timing and precision, the claw doesn't budge the prize at all. She tries again and again until tears quietly start to form in her eyes. Their struggle doesn't go unnoticed as Renji spots them. To disguise himself, he throws on a pair of sunglasses and messes up his hair. His attempt seems to work. Aoi glances at him and immediately assumes he's some suspicious gangster. Convinced he's the same guy who confessed to Lily, Aoi makes a disgusted face and turns away. When she turns to look at Lily, her eyes sparkle like a maiden in love. He reminded her of a cool koala. Aoi feels uneasy and wants to pull her back to reality, knowing she's setting herself up for heartbreak. But before anything, Renji steps in with a clever trick for the claw machine. He explains that grabbing a toy by the head, typically the heaviest part, causes it to topple forward, making it easier to win. After his brief lesson, he urges them to try it out. Aoi follows his advice and snags a toy in one attempt. Holding the prize, Aoi starts to feel conflicted. She's unexpectedly touched by his guidance, even though she thought he was a thug moments ago. She considers apologizing, but before she can, Renji gently taps her on the head and flashes a carefree smile. The gesture throws her off completely. Realizing he almost breaks character, Renji quickly excuses himself to grab a bag for the toy. As he walks away, Lily turns to Aoi with a sharp, accusing glance. Aoi panics inside, fumbling for words to explain herself. That night, Lily and her mom go shopping for new school supplies, but Lily's face still shows signs of irritation. She browses quietly, searching for a sparkly pen like the one Aoi had. Her mom reminds her that they're here to buy study essentials, so Lily resumes her search. While looking through the pen section, Renji unexpectedly spots her. He casually greets her, but Lily quickly darts behind her mom, trying to hide. When asked why, she mutters that she didn't dress cutely today, so she feels shy. Her mom only nudges her to greet him properly. Lily's mom almost mistakes Renji for her daughter's boyfriend, but she does know him as the Game Center employee Lily met. She thanks him for looking after Lily, and Renji returns the gratitude, saying Lily often visits the Game Center to play. She admits that since moving to Japan, Lily hasn't truly felt at home until she discovered the Game Center. She even mentions how much she enjoys cuddling the koala stuffed toy they won there. Embarrassed, Lily can't hide any longer and rushes over to scold her mom for oversharing. Renji, unfazed, casually mentions that he knows where to find the ballpoint pen they're looking for and leads them toward it. However, it turns out to be a prize inside a claw machine. Lily instantly demands her wallet from her mom, determined to win it, but her mom hesitates, knowing her daughter often spends all of her pocket money at arcades. Before either of them can argue further, Renji wins the pen on his first try, shocking both Lily and her mom. Renji hands the pen to Lily and her mom allows her to accept it. Both are genuinely grateful for his kindness. Just then, the closing announcement plays and Lily immediately recognizes the tune, Auld Lang Syne. Curious, she asked about it, and her mom explains that in Japan, the song signals closing time. Lily is surprised. In the UK, it's usually played during celebrations. The unexpected familiarity of the melody gives Lily a warm, nostalgic feeling. As they part ways, she says goodbye with a bright smile on her face. The next day, she writes in their exchange diary using her new sparkling pen. However, Renji struggles to read her glittery handwriting. The day after that, Lily vents to Aoi about her latest concern. Renji shows no reaction to her subtle advances. In their diary, he only writes brief, generic replies. Lily begins to worry, thinking their connection is already starting to fade. Thinking about it, Aoi sighs. She's not even sure if Lily's gangster-looking love interest is a decent guy, but she still does her best to support her friend. She advises Lily to pull instead of push, though Lily takes it literally and drags a table toward her in confusion. Later that day, they return to the game center. Renji is caught off guard seeing Aoi with Lily again. In a slight panic, he quickly puts on his disguise only for a colleague to pass by and remind him that he's still on the clock. Renji approaches to assist the two of them at the claw machine, but Lily only glances at him briefly before turning away without a word. Aoi quietly celebrates her friend's cool, distant act, but Renji feels the exact opposite. Elsewhere in the game center, Aoi and Lily talk. Aoi suggests that since Lily has always been overly eager with Renji, her sudden shift to coldness might grab his attention. Though she only got the idea from a magazine and isn't fully sure it'll work. But when she turns to check on Lily, she's shocked to see her in both sweat and tears. Trying to ignore Renji is already taking a toll on her. If acting cold for even a short time hurts her this deeply, then she must truly be in love with Renji. Aoi does her best to pull her up the stairs, assuring her it will all be worth it. But as they reach the next floor, they spot Renji assisting a few customers struggling with a claw machine. Aoi is surprised by how casually he interacts with them, although his style and clothing say otherwise. Lost in observation, she fails to notice the storm building beside her. Only then does Aoi realize she may have made a critical mistake by trying to apply romance tactics to them. Before she can react, Lily storms toward Renji and shoves him away from the girls. Without a word, she storms out of the arcade, leaving everyone else stunned. Lily ended up pushing him literally. While walking home, Lily's mom eagerly looks forward to cooking dinner, but her excitement fades when she spots Lily with tears in her eyes. At the dinner table, Lily opens up about the scene at the game center. Her mom assumes Renji must be tired of her by now, but Lily quickly speaks, saying she just couldn't stand how those girls acted around him. Her mom shrieks, overwhelmed by her daughter's sincerity, and gently advises her to talk things through with Renji. Still, she adds something else, a technique she once used to win Lily's dad's heart. The next day, Renji leaves the game center. He has never seen Lily again after their last interaction, so he assumes she wants nothing to do with him anymore. But as he walks, Lily calls out to him from behind, breathless from running to catch up. They find a quiet bench, where she hands him a muffin she baked just for him. Renji takes a bite and genuinely enjoys it. Lily had a little help in cooking them. She and Aoi had attempted the recipe several times, failing each time despite following every step. Aoi helped her as a true friend, something Lily cherishes. This was part of her mom's advice. The best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Renji admits that Aoi tends to get on people's businesses a lot, but before he can dwell on it, Lily hands him their exchange notebook and urges him to read it right away. To his surprise, her message is written in Japanese. In her letter, Lily apologizes for pushing him and reveals that Aoi's advice was what sparked her cold behavior. She also confesses her sadness over how much attention the other girls received from him, leaving her unsure of what to do. Reading her heartfelt words and looking at her nervous yet adorable face, Renji finds himself unsure how to respond. After a pause, he suggests they spend time together outside of the game center. He carefully explains this in the simplest terms he can until Lily understands. Suddenly, she lights up with joy, springing from her seat. To her, this clearly means it's a date. Though Renji doesn't mean it that way, they end up setting plans for their very first date. On the day of their date, Lily nervously asks her mom what she should wear to meet Renji. She's been fussing over every little detail, determined to make everything perfect. Her mother, noticing how worked up Lily is, warns her not to stay up too late or she might oversleep. But Lily brushes off the warning and insists her mom help her pick a dress. Confidently, she adds that she won't be oversleeping anyway. She already drank an entire can of energy drink, which immediately alarms her mother. The next day, Renji arrives a bit earlier than planned at the meeting spot. They agreed to meet outside his workplace for once, but they still end up in an arcade, just one with a different name. Despite this coincidence, Renji stays cheerful. Soon enough, Lily arrives looking restless. Renji greets her, surprised by her worn-out appearance. Turns out she didn't get any sleep at all. Renji is confused. How can she already look so groggy when their date has just begun? Concerned, he gently asks if she's feeling okay. Lily insists she's fine, but Renji senses otherwise and decides to try cheering her up. Recalling how she once got upset when he failed to compliment her outfit, Renji quickly takes a moment to admire what she's wearing today. Lily smiles and thanks him, trying to appear cheerful, but her exhaustion is still written all over her face. Realizing the compliment wasn't enough, Renji leads the way into the arcade and scans his game card at the entrance. He quickly glances back and is startled to find a crowd has already formed between them. When Renji finally locates Lily, he immediately asks if she's really okay and suggests she head home if she isn't feeling well. But Lily quickly shakes her head. With this, Renji offers his hand instead, suggesting they stick close so she won't get lost again. Lily blushes at the gesture, but despite her trembling fingers, she gently takes his hand. As they weave through the arcade, Lily clings awkwardly to the sleeve of Renji's shirt. Though she seems uncomfortable, a quiet joy lingers behind her tired expression. Looking around, the place is packed with different games. Renji turns to ask which one she'd like to try first, but Lily is too exhausted to give a clear answer. As they pause to get a better look at the game, a nearby staff explains that it's a new VR experience where players become koalas and help save the forest. Renji is taken aback, surprised that the koala character is popular enough to have its own VR game. Since there's no line, the staff encourages them to give it a try. Lily's eyes sparkle with excitement, and she immediately says she wants to play. They both put on their VRs and start the game. Their first task is to visit the koala's forest. Once inside the VR world, they transform into animated koalas. Lily finds her new appearance adorable. Renji, however, feels embarrassed about how he looks in koala form. But even then, Lily thinks he's so cute that she shyly turns her head away, not wanting Renji to see her blushing. Soon, the game begins. A group of hunters invades the forest, and it's up to them to protect themselves and the animals. The hunters suddenly face them and begin shooting, causing Renji to panic at the game's intense start. With no other option, he grabs Lily's hand and runs, pulling her through the forest. But even while playing, Lily's exhaustion creeps in. Moments later, Lily briefly blacks out. When she opens her eyes again, she's startled to find herself in Renji's arms. But the danger isn't over yet. He scrambles up a tree with Lily and Tao, settling her carefully on a sturdy branch to keep her safe. Then, without hesitation, he comes back down, determined to face the hunters. When he's done, Renji returns to Lily, and they continue through the forest until they reach a waterfall. However, one last hunter remains in the area, cornering them at the edge of the cliff. With the waterfall behind them, the hunter threatens to shoot. As the gun fires, Renji quickly dodges and leaps forward, kicking the hunter and knocking him to the ground. He then turns to Lily, looking serious for a moment, and silently promises to protect her. But as it turns out, Lily's only dreaming. A group of hunters is approaching fast, and soon gunshots ring out. The game ends shortly after with a game over screen. Lily ends up falling asleep during their date, so Renji carries her on his back and heads home. They didn't play many games, but at least she's resting peacefully, even smiling in her sleep. That night, while grocery shopping, Lily's mother mentions that the energy drinks she took before bed caused her to fall asleep in the middle of their date. But instead of taking her mother's advice, Lily cheekily suggests drinking 2 cans next time so she can stay up in the morning too. Meanwhile, Aoi notices how Renji dressed up earlier and teases him about going on a date. When he gets flustered, she realizes she's right. Curious, she presses him for details, but Renji struggles to give a clear answer, leading her to assume the date didn't go well. He quickly insists it wasn't a failure. Unconvinced, Aoi jokes that he better not let the girl slip away. After all, not many girls would willingly date someone like him. Renji tries to argue back, but deep down he knows he can't tell Aoi that Lily was the one he went out with. The next day at school, Lily earns a perfect score on her English test, attracting a crowd of classmates who gush over her impressive results. Aoi readies herself to step in and shield Lily, but Hotaru gets there first, firmly telling everyone to back off since Lily is still struggling with Japanese. Aoi backs her up and together they manage to drive the crowd away. Once alone, Aoi asks if Lily is okay and steps closer, accidentally bumping the desk and knocking a paper to the floor. It's Lily's Japanese test. Expecting a poor score, Aoi peeks at the paper, but to her surprise, Lily scored even higher than she did. When Aoi gets home, she shares everything that happened at school with Renji, This makes him wonder if their exchange notebook helped Lily improve her Japanese. While he's lost in thought, Aoi casually mentions that Lily will be coming over for a study party. Aoi explains it's because midterm exams are coming up, so they'll be studying tomorrow. Renji lets out his sigh of relief. He has class and won't be home when Lily arrives. The next day, Lily arrives at their house and Aoi welcomes her warmly. As Lily scans the room, her eyes land on a photo frame nearby. Curious, she moves closer and realizes Aoi and Renji are siblings. Just as she leans in to look closer, Aoi returns with 2 glasses of juice, snapping her out of her thoughts. They take a seat together and Aoi tries to make small talk, but Lily seems visibly uneasy. Noticing this, Aoi gently asks what's wrong. Lily hesitates, then asks about her brother. Aoi casually replies that he's in college at the moment, causing Lily's expression to fall. A moment later, Lily asks to use the bathroom. Instead of heading straight to the bathroom, Lily notices a sign to Renji's room. The idea of seeing his room tempts her, though part of her hesitates. Still, thinking she might never get another chance, she quietly steps inside. Her eyes scan the space until they land on their exchange notebook resting on the bedside table. Just seeing it makes her happy. But before she can read, something else catches her attention, a koala mug, the claw machine prize she once gave him. As she reaches for the mug, a voice suddenly calls out behind her. Lily's face turns red as she quickly turns and bolts out of the room. Renji tries to follow her but is stopped by Aoi, who's storming toward him. Only then does she learn his classes were cancelled and he never left home. Back in Aoi's room, Lily remains visibly uneasy. This makes Aoi start overthinking. She's certain Renji didn't do anything, so she runs through other possibilities. Maybe Lily is experiencing some sort of withdrawal from not visiting the game center lately, having been too focused on tests. After giving it some thought, Aoi decides to cheer her up. She suggests they take a quick break and pulls out a game from her drawer. Meanwhile, Renji is in his room playing on his console, but his mind keeps drifting back to the moment he caught Lily inside. He can't stop wondering why she was there. His room doesn't exactly have anything special in it. Aside from that, the possibility that Lily might mention something to Aoi worries him. If she finds out, she'd easily jump to conclusions. The thought of Aoi discovering the truth makes him frown. Worse, she might actually kick him out. While lost in thought, Renji is startled when Aoi suddenly enters his room with Lily. They're only there to borrow his game console, but he reminds them that they should be studying. Aoi quickly comes up with an excuse, claiming that playing will somehow boost their performance. Renji remains unconvinced, doubting they even have a game to play. To his surprise, Aoi pulls out a familiar game, the same koala-themed game he and Lily played together in VR during their date. He had no idea it had a console version, catching him completely off guard. Thinking it over, Renji realizes Lily would probably enjoy the game. After seeing her flustered face beside Aoi, he decides to let them play, so long as they remember to study. But as time passes, he remains uneasy about the possibility of Lily mentioning anything to Aoi. Wanting to check in, he heads to Aoi's room to see how they're doing. To his surprise, the 2 girls are completely absorbed in the game. Apparently, they haven't had any luck. They've been stuck on the first level since starting. Renji sighs, brings them 2 glasses of juice, and gently reminds them not to go overboard since this was only supposed to be a break. That's when Aoi gets a bold idea. She insists Renji should play for them and confidently tells Lily that her brother is a gaming expert. Renji tries to decline at first, but when Lily looks at him with hopeful eyes, he falters and agrees. Aoi hands him the controller, showing him the setup, and the game begins again, this time with Renji. However, even he struggles to finish the first level. It's made extremely difficult. But what bothers him more is that Lily's character isn't moving at all. When he turns to her, he sees she's just staring at him, not making a single move. Distracted by her gaze, Renji fails to notice the enemies closing in, and the game ends once again. As time passes and night approaches, they're still playing. They begin clearing levels now, but when Renji starts thinking about Lily again in their first date, he loses focus and ends up failing the game. He admits he let his guard down, but Lily refuses to accept defeat, insisting on trying one more time, completely forgetting about studying. Lily plays at the arcade once again, locked in an intense match against a stranger. Her character battles fiercely on the screen, and she focuses hard, determined to win. Despite her efforts, the fight ends in defeat, and a heavy sigh escapes her lips. Noticing her expression, the opponent's friend intervenes, urging his companion to ease up on her. Lily's opponent grows even more challenged when he realizes she's a beginner. Trying to let her win proves harder than expected. He lowers his guard, but when his friend glances at Lily, her irritation has only deepened. She must have noticed he's going easy on her. To fix this, his friend steps in and takes over, pulling off a clever trick. He times a power move to look as though Lily dodged it, but in reality, he lets her counterattack and land the final blow. Her character then enters Otokoji mode, securing her victory. Lily beams with excitement, looking as if she fought hard for the win. Ecstatic, Lily turns to share her success with Renji, only to find him a few steps away, talking to another girl hiding her face behind a purse. The sight makes Lily simmer in jealousy. Renji, while doing his duties as a game center staff member, happens to notice a girl bending over, seemingly searching for something under a machine. When he calls out to her, she becomes overly defensive, prompting him to calmly reassure her. It turns out she was struggling with a machine issue, so Renji helps, and in that moment, he recognizes her as Momoko, a girl from his department. Momoko tries to deny her identity, but it's obvious. Instead, she begs him not to spread rumors about her sneaking for dropped coins. Renji agrees and casually mentions his part-time job at the arcade. Surprised, Momoko remarks that it explains why he's never in any clubs, startling Renji with how much she knows about him. Realizing what she said, Momoko panics and bolts, leaving Renji puzzled and completely unaware of Lily fuming behind her. Meanwhile, Momoko races away from the arcade. She can't stop thinking about Renji, especially the fact that he remembered her name, something she didn't expect at all. The next day, Momoko returns to the arcade and spots Renji the moment she walks in. He is crouched down, helping a woman gather her dropped coins. His effortless kindness makes her cheeks flush with warmth. The sight pulls her back to their very first encounter in college when she accidentally dropped a stack of papers on the ground. Renji had knelt to help her, smiling as he gathered them up. His cheerful tone and casual "take care" before walking away left her completely speechless. From that day on, she couldn't get him out of her mind, even though he never spoke to her like that again. Now seeing him here feels like fate and a rare chance to get closer to him. She decides she'll spend more time in the arcade if it means learning more about him. Lost in thought, she suddenly senses someone watching. When she glances back, no one is there. Then her gaze falls on a stuffed animal in a nearby claw machine. Momoko decides to try the claw machine to win the chivalry toy, but it proves much harder than she expected, and she considers asking Renji for help. Before she can, Lily appears beside her, confidently asking if she can give it a shot. Startled, Momoko steps aside, watching Lily take control with determination. For a moment, Momoko assumes Lily must be some kind of arcade pro, but the illusion shatters quickly. Lily's attempt doesn't even come close, and the claw didn't even touch the toy. Lily bolts out of the game center in tears, leaving Momoko puzzled about her sudden outburst. The next day, Lily returns, determined to redeem herself. She plays rock, paper, scissors at a token game but keeps losing repeatedly. Frustrated and exhausted, she collapses in tears. Aoi steps in and offers her a cup filled with tokens, explaining there's a trick to winning them. Though in truth, she simply looked it up online. Despite the gesture, Lily continues crying, so Aoi comforts her and suggests they play more token games together. Lily brightens at the idea, realizing it means spending more time with Aoi, which excites her. Meanwhile, as Lily and Aoi head off to play, Renji is left standing alone. Then Momoko arrives and approaches him, catching his attention just as the two girls go. With this, Aoi notices her friend's expression and quickly explains that Renji is just doing his job, entertaining customers. But Lily knows them more than strangers. She overheard them before saying they go to the same college. Glancing at Momoko's curves, Aoi silently doubts Lily's chances and grows concerned about her friend. As Momoko starts walking toward them, Lily steps forward without hesitation. Momoko greets her with surprise, asking why she approached, but Lily ignores the question entirely. Instead, she immediately questions Momoko's relationship with Renji and goes as far as boasting that she and Renji have already gone on a date, and that she has even been to his house already. The tension builds as Momoko stares blankly, not understanding a word. She doesn't speak English. Lily throws Aoi a sharp glance, silently demanding she translates it for her. Aoi, unwilling to spill the truth, improvises and tells Momoko that Lily just wants to play games with her. Momoko's face brightens instantly. Meanwhile, Lily interprets this as a challenge, assuming they will settle everything through a game. Feeling victorious at the thought, she thanks Aoi and strides confidently toward a nearby machine. Once they reach it, they immediately start playing tokens, sliding into the slot as their hands move with frantic energy. Before long, their enthusiasm crumbles. Lily have assumed the game would be easy, but Aoi explains it's the opposite. Winning is almost impossible without sheer luck. With this, Aoi suggests they try something different, the coin pusher machine. She explains there's a simple trick and decides to demonstrate it herself. With careful timing, she slides a token and the machine instantly releases a cascade of tokens that clatter into the tray. Even Aoi pauses, stunned at how well it worked. Momoko watches in wide-eyed admiration as Aoi scoops up the winnings, while Renji, noticing from a distance, can't help but be impressed. To him, it looks like perfect precision. Aoi shrugs it off, insisting it's just luck, but Renji tells her luck feels like a rare kind of skill. Lily notices this and narrows her eyes with suspicion, making Aoi instantly defensive. With their sudden departure, Momoko and Renji are left standing together. The next day, Aoi waits outside Lily's house so they can head to school. As they walk, Aoi can't stop talking about Renji, marveling at how she never expected him to have such a beautiful classmate. Her words, however, only make Lily's mood sink lower. Noticing this, Aoi quickly reassures her friend that she can handle any rival who comes her way. She praises Lily's good qualities and urges her to act cool, show a little feminine charm, and play her cards right. With Aoi's supportive cheer, Lily finds her determination returning, ready to fight for Renji. Later that day, Lily returns to the game center and throws herself into a hammer game with relentless energy, despite Renji urging her to stop. Her body is clearly exhausted, but she refuses to quit, unwilling to admit defeat. Blow after blow, she fails to smash even one target. Aoi and Renji watch in growing frustration as Lily pushes herself beyond reason. But Lily ignores their warnings because she's fixated on the prize, which is a small koala keychain displayed above the machine. Renji understands how badly she wants it, yet her scores never come close to the required mark. The hurdle is too high, and even though he wants to help, his job prevents him from interfering. Just when the tension peaks, Momoko suddenly appears, offering her help with a bright smile. Aoi immediately turns to see Lily's reaction and finds her just as startled. Momoko steps forward, introducing herself with friendly confidence that encourages Lily to do the same. At that moment, the mood instantly brightens. Renji explains Lily's struggle to Momoko. Without hesitation, she offers to help. Aoi smirks. Lily's supposed love rival is stepping in for her, but to her surprise, Lily accepts the offer. Momoko brightens instantly and takes position at the game, leaving Aoi baffled. Momoko grips the hammer and raises it high. At first glance, Aoi doubts it will work, but two strangers, whispering that she might be wrong. One of them points out Momoko's stance, a left-forward, two-handed position resembling a kendo strike. True enough, the moment a hamster pops from the hole, Momoko slams the hammer down with perfect timing, scoring instantly. Her precision leaves everyone stunned, except Renji, who now worries she might break the machine with such force. Yet Momoko remains unfazed, continuing her swift strikes. Each hit lands flawlessly, while Lily can only watch in awe. In the end, Momoko achieves a perfect score, leaving everyone speechless. With this, Momoko reveals that her family runs a kendo hall and she was trained by her father, explaining her flawless technique and strength in the hammer game. With her perfect score, Renji is set to award Momoko the prize. However, seeing how much Lily wanted the koala keychain, Momoko kindly asks him to give it to her instead. Renji complies without hesitation, handing the keychain to Lily. She accepts it but pauses when she sees Momoko's warm smile. The gesture feels effortlessly feminine, reminding Lily of Aoi's earlier advice about showing charm. Wanting to prove herself, Lily urges Momoko to keep the prize instead. Both Momoko and Renji stare in shock, while Aoi silently questions if this is really what Lily considers feminine charm. After a moment, Momoko accepts with a grateful smile, but Lily hesitates. She takes one last look at the keychain, her eyes analyzing every detail. It's a limited edition piece. When Lily finally hands the keychain to Momoko, she grabs the hammer again, determined to try once more. Renji notices immediately, realizing she still refuses to accept defeat. The group watches in surprise, fully aware of her strategy won't work, yet they cheer her on anyway. Despite their support, Lily ends the round with a total of 0 points. With this, Momoko decides to step in, playing another round, and wins a second prize for her. That night at her home, Momoko talks on the phone about her day at the game center. She picks up a stuffed toy she won from the claw machine earlier and asks for someone named Tomozo to come to the phone. Moments later, it's revealed Tomozo is actually a dog, an adorable pup who looks exactly like the plush she's holding. Momoko shows the toy to the person on the other end of the line, who immediately agrees with the resemblance. However, deep down, the plush reminds Momoko of someone else too, Renji, who is simply sneezing repeatedly back at his home, unaware he's the subject of her playful comparison. That morning, Lily tries her best to help her mom Cheryl with chores, but when she does the dishes, a glass slips and shatters. The laundry gets tangled into a pyramid and the tables she wipes end up wetter than before. She apologizes repeatedly. Wondering what's on her mind, Cheryl suspects it's about getting leverage on allowance, until Lily suddenly bolts out. When she returns, Lily holds a bouquet and shyly expresses her gratitude. It turns out Renji told her that Mother's Day in Japan is celebrated in May, so Lily wanted to impress Cheryl with chores and flowers. She chose daffodils, a symbol of respect, which Cheryl accepts warmly, though she teasingly reminds Lily that this won't earn her extra allowance so easily. Unbeknownst to them, Lily's father Oliver silently watches from behind the door while secretly hoping his daughter won't forget about Father's Day too. The next day, Lily happily tells Renji how much Cheryl appreciated the gesture, thanking him for the idea. While they chat, a colleague casually mentions the rain, and sure enough, the sky turns gray. Lily realizes she didn't bring an umbrella, so Renji immediately offers his own. He assures her he'll grab a spare from the store later, but when he turns around, his two other colleagues have already taken the remaining umbrellas. With no choice left, Lily suggests Renji can escort her home with his umbrella, and once she's safely inside, he can use it to return home. However, Renji reminds her that he still has tasks to finish. Lily simply beams and says she'll wait, claiming she'll enjoy herself playing in the meantime. Before Renji can protest, Lily excitedly dashes inside the arcade, leaving him with no choice but to walk Lily home that day. True enough, Lily spends her time at the game center trying to win prizes, but no matter how many times she tries, she keeps losing. By the time Renji finishes his shift, the rain is pouring hard, so the two begin their walk home under Renji's umbrella. The atmosphere feels awkward as Renji tries to make small talk about her home, but then he notices Lily is walking too far from him, leaving her shoulder exposed to the rain. Without thinking, he moves closer until their arms touch, making Lily panic. Flustered, she darts away, only for a car to speed past at that exact moment. Before disaster strikes, Renji yanks her back just in time. Lily's eyes brim with tears, overwhelmed but unharmed. Suddenly, the car stops and a tall, intimidating man steps out to check on them. Renji freezes in place until Lily suddenly cries out, "Dad!" The man's stern expression softens instantly. His face becomes brighter as he sweeps Lily into his arms, scolding her gently for running into the street. Lily quickly introduces Renji to Oliver, but Renji, nervous and intimidated, tries to excuse himself and leave. Before he can slip away, Oliver stops him, expressing his gratitude and inviting him over to their home for saving Lily's life. Renji hesitates, still terrified, but with Lily's insistence, he finds himself unable to refuse. When they arrive at Lily's home, Cheryl greets them warmly. Cheryl is cooking homemade curry, and she urges Renji to join them for dinner, but he politely refuses, saying he only intended to walk Lily home because of the rain. Still, Cheryl insists, teasing Lily for behaving so well while he's there. Then, leaning close, she whispers loudly into Lily's ear about making progress with Renji, leaving Lily completely flustered. Feeling cornered, Renji finally agrees to stay but offers to help instead. Oliver immediately suggests he assists with peeling apples, adding that they can have a man-to-man talk while doing so. The remark terrifies Renji, especially when he realizes Oliver is holding a knife sharp enough not just to peel apples. Once the cooking is done, Lily helps Cheryl set the table while Renji remains with Oliver, continuing their task. During this quiet moment, Oliver casually brings up Renji's job at the game center and then shifts the topic toward Lily. Renji honestly explains how Lily often visits the arcade and enjoys playing games there. Oliver smiles at the thought, though a faint sadness lingers as he quietly misses the days when Lily wanted him to take and fetch her to school. He continues to share how Lily struggled to make friends after moving to Japan, often feeling isolated. However, everything changed once she began visiting the game center. She became brighter, more cheerful, and even talkative. He expresses his gratitude toward Renji for supporting her during that time. Still, Oliver admits he has long felt guilty about uprooting their lives for his job. Renji, though curious about what kind of work he has, decides not to ask. Whatever it is, despite his intimidating presence, Oliver seems genuinely loving toward Lily. However, his friendly demeanor vanishes when he suddenly asks if Renji is going out with Lily, because that, he says, is a different story entirely. Startled, Renji quickly defends himself, insisting it's nothing like that. They're just customer and employee, nothing more. But seeing the way Renji looks after Lily, Oliver doubts every word he says. As Renji struggles to explain himself, Oliver presses harder. He demands to know the true nature of their relationship, a question Renji finds almost impossible to answer. Just when things escalate further, Lily steps in to defend Renji, telling Oliver to let him be. Hearing Lily's explanation, Oliver softens slightly and seems convinced, but the lingering looks between the two suggest something deeper. They are not in a relationship, or at least not yet. This answer from Lily reignites Oliver's fury, and he turns his interrogation toward Renji's intentions toward her. The house fills with the echo of their chaos until, at last, Cheryl steps in, breaking the tension with a cheerful announcement that dinner is ready. The next day, Renji returns to his shift at the game center and notices a family of 3 laughing together while playing a claw machine. The scene reminds him of Lily and her family last night. Suddenly, Lily appears in front of him, dressed in a light summer outfit that catches his attention. He compliments her instinctively, realizing that the first time they met, it was the middle of wintertime. Time has flown faster than he imagined. But their excitement vanishes when an imposing figure steps into view. Oliver stands right behind her, his stern gaze locking on Renji. The tension thickens instantly as Oliver scolds Renji for ogling his daughter. Lily smacks Oliver to stop his overreaction. Renji, frozen in disbelief, wonders what brings him here. Oliver explains with an intimidating tone that he spends his day off taking Lily anywhere she wants. His words sound so heavy that even the two players retreat nervously, hiding behind Renji. Oliver casually brings up a rumor about a man frequenting the game's center to prey on teenage girls. The statement startles Renji, leaving him wondering what that's all about. Though unbeknownst to him, they're actually pointing at him the moment he turns away. This only triggers Oliver further, forcing Lily to step in and calm him down. Excited, Lily suggests they start playing instead, so Oliver apologizes for keeping her waiting. He follows her as she scans the rows of machines, her eyes lighting up at a claw machine with a manly-looking koala plush. Determined, Lily slips a token into the slot and boasts confidently that she'll snag it in one try. But reality proves otherwise. After several attempts, the plush hasn't moved an inch. Lily is now in tears after losing countless times. Oliver, however, redirects his anger toward Renji, accusing the arcade of running some sort of strategy to drain money from customers like Lily. Renji quickly denies it, but before he can explain, a nearby child wins a plush. Realizing the game isn't a scam, Oliver decides to play the game for her. Renji politely offers a few tips, but Oliver waves him off with confidence, boasting that while he's never caught a koala before, he has hunted a real bear with his bare hands. The remark leaves Renji speechless, his smile twitching nervously. Oliver grabs the controls with determination, yet the crane barely grazes the plush. He blames the flimsy mechanism, ignoring Renji's calm explanations. Hours pass, and the once proud hunter is now kneeling on the floor in defeat, unwilling to surrender. Both Lily and Renji plead with him to let it go, and even though he does not want to, he has no choice as he is already out of tokens. Renji finds the scene almost tragic, so he quietly pulls out a token from his pocket and pretends it was Oliver who dropped it, giving him a chance to redeem himself. At first, Oliver refuses, but Lily's hopeful voice pressures him into trying again. As he drops the token into the machine, his entire demeanor changes. In his mind, he's deep in the forest, a hunter tracking his prey. The crane becomes his rifle, and the plush koala is his target. With unwavering focus, he observes the target. Then, in one decisive motion, he pulls the trigger. Just like that, he shorts the koala successfully. And as if a real prey falling off the cliff, the koala plush tumbles into the prized chute. The place falls silent for a brief moment, and then as Oliver lifts the koala plush in triumph, cheers erupt from the small crowd gathered around. Outside, he hands the toy to Lily, whose eyes sparkle with delight. She hugs the plush tightly, overjoyed by Oliver's victory. Though he finally won, the reality hits he spent a small fortune on tokens. Turning to Renji, he asks if Renji often pulls these tricks to impress his daughter. Seeing her smile, Oliver decides to let it slide. Soon after, Oliver and Lily bid goodbye, leaving Renji exhausted but secretly happy as he watches them walk away from the arcade. The next day, Oliver returns, alone this time. His intimidating presence startles Renji, but instead he gives him a single token. Renji does not want to accept it at first. He insists on returning it, stating firmly that he doesn't like owing Renji anything. Of course, Renji knows Oliver didn't return just to hand over a token. True enough, he reveals that he came back for a rematch with the claw machine. This time, he's fully prepared, proudly revealing a purse stuffed with gaming tokens. Renji wonders why he's so determined when he already won a koala plush yesterday, but the man declares he isn't satisfied with a sloppy victory. He wants a clean, undeniable win. Before the game begins, Renji tries offering a few helpful tips, but as usual, Oliver waves him off, brimming with confidence in his own skills. However, after several attempts, he's still unsuccessful, the machine refusing to yield another prize. Token after token disappears, and Renji can only watch in stunned disbelief as the man continues. In that moment, he realizes something. Lily and Oliver share the same stubborn behavior. Both of them refuse to give up, no matter the odds. Like father, like daughter. After multiple failed attempts, Oliver can no longer hold it in and throws a fit of rage at the claw machine. But the intensity of his voice makes the machine vibrate, causing the koala plush to slip and fall right into the prized chute. Seeing the koala, the two of them can only stare at each other, unsure of what to do. That morning at the game center, Lily's usual opponent is playing against someone else. He pushes hard to win, but his opponent is skilled and he loses. The victor is a red-haired girl. Even Renji, watching from afar, is surprised. This guy is one of his best regulars, yet he's been beaten 3 times in a row. When Renji finally gazes, he realizes the opponent is a girl about Lily's age. The man asks for another round, but she declines, saying she already has someone in mind. Without hesitation, she walks up to Renji and challenges him to a match. The nearby crowd reacts instantly, surprised she's targeting an employee. Renji is equally taken aback. When he doesn't recognize her, the girl looks genuinely offended. The onlookers waste no time teasing him for not knowing who she is, but Renji truly has no clue. The red-haired girl introduces herself as Karin. Years ago, back in elementary, she came to the game center to show off a combo she had perfected on her console at home. She was undefeated until Renji appeared. One match was all it took for him to shatter her winning streak. Renji back then seemed unfazed, but for Karin, the defeat was humiliating. Renji doesn't even remember the match, yet Karin never forgot. The loss traumatized her, driving her to avoid in-person matches entirely. She shut herself away, playing only online. Now she's back, determined to reclaim her pride. Hearing her story, the crowd starts murmuring in sympathy, throwing Renji disapproving looks. Karin declares that today is the day she'll finally beat him. Renji, however, is working and can't accept, so she urges him to drop his duties immediately. Just as the tension peaks, Lily steps forward, placing herself between them. With confidence, Lily volunteers to fight in Renji's place. Karin is unsure of who she is, but the crowd erupts in cheers, chanting Lily's name. With that, Karin is convinced that Lily must be the second best player in the center, so she agrees. Karin lets Lily choose the game, and to her surprise, Lily points to a Koala-themed title. Karin has never touched it before, mostly because it has no console version. Still, seeing Lily's wide grin makes her uneasy, thinking Lily must have played it plenty of times already. Even so, Karin accepts the challenge. But the moment the match starts, one quick move is all it takes, and Karin wins instantly. She stares at the screen, stunned, realizing she's a complete beginner. Before Karin can even react, Lily bursts into ugly sobs. Her dramatic crying makes Karin flustered. Sighing, Karin walks over and offers to teach her some basic moves. Starting small, she insists Lily practiced against the computer first. She's far too green for human opponents just yet. The crowd watches in surprise. Karin seems to have found a new distraction, and Lily finally has someone her age to play with. After a short training session, Lily manages to defeat her opponent. The crowd erupts into cheers, though Karin can't help but wonder why they're only battling the computer. Overjoyed, Lily proudly calls Karin her master. Karin tries to correct her, insisting she just use her name, but Lily refuses to listen. By afternoon, Karin still hasn't had her long-awaited rematch with Renji. Instead, she somehow ended up with a student. Karin has always played to win, but this feels different, even though she doubts she'll see Lily again. The next day, Lily excitedly tells Aoi all about her day at the game center. Aoi wonders if Lily's new master is as skilled as his brother. Lily eagerly hopes to see Karin again, but to her surprise, they no longer need to visit the game center since they attend the same school. Filled with enthusiasm, Lily begins following Karin everywhere she goes. However, Karin clearly seems annoyed by Lily's presence. Watching this, Hotaru feels pity for Lily. As class president, she believes she has to help. Now that she's improved her English a bit, Hotaru decides to step in. But just as Hotaru speaks, Lily slips away, leaving her behind. That afternoon, Karin, followed by Aoi and Lily, heads to the game center. Karin suspects they might be following her, but in truth, they are simply going to the same place. Despite this, Lily is eager to play with her. Karin, however, isn't interested. She's back to settle things with Renji, determined to force him into a rematch after he turned her down the day before due to work. Aoi thinks Karin's plan is crazy, and so far, Renji is nowhere to be found. Still, Karin insists on waiting for him. Eventually, Lily approaches with watery eyes, pleading softly. Her charm is impossible to resist, and finally, Karin agrees to join them. Lily immediately chooses a game she wants to play. A candy prize catches her eye. Karin insists they can just buy candies like usual, but Aoi argues that winning a bunch is what makes the experience exciting. While Karin and Aoi debate the logic behind this, Lily wastes no time dropping a token and starting the game. She quickly scores an orange-flavored candy, beaming as she holds it up for everyone to see. That's when Aoi realizes that if you consider the cost of tokens versus the prize, it's definitely a losing bet. Still, saying that aloud would just make her sound like Karin. Unbeknownst to them, Karin has already started playing on another machine. On her very first try, she wins an enormous pile of candies, which leaves Aoi stunned by her skill. Without hesitation, Karin begins handing out the candies she won. Aoi is hesitant to accept at first, but Lily eagerly grabs a handful. Karin explains she can't eat all this candy alone and wants to share. With that, Aoi finally joins them, accepting a piece of candy as well. Not far behind, Renji watches as they enjoy themselves. However, Karin quickly spots him. Renji panics and tries to hide once again, pulling off his disguise to avoid being recognized by Aoi. He hopes it will work, but Karin loudly calls out to him. Nervously, Renji turns his head, wishing his disguise would be enough to hide his identity. Still, Karin remains determined and presses on with her goal to challenge him. Aoi catches sight of the two arguing nearby and steps closer. During the exchange, Karin urges Renji to take off his glasses. When he does, the disguise falls away completely and Renji finally reveals himself to his sister. Aoi's eyes widen as she realizes that Lily's love interest and her own brother are the same person. While cleaning the board, Hotaru notices Aoi's unusual silence inside the classroom. This makes her think Aoi has a problem. As class president, she feels obliged to help, but the moment she tries to speak, Aoi is already gone, quietly slipping outside. Aoi stands at the school's veranda, quietly looking out at the view. Behind her, Lily and Karen approach. Karen, noticing her sudden change in mood, asks why she seems off, so Lily decides to explain the whole situation about Renji. Karen listens but finds it hard to believe that Aoi couldn't recognize her own brother beneath such a flimsy disguise. Hearing this, Aoi quickly tries to defend herself. She insists that all this time she truly had no idea it was Renji, though she assumed Lily must have known from the start. Lily immediately tries to deny, but her eyes say otherwise. Aoi had in fact noticed things between her and Renji at home that become slightly awkward. Karen, however, couldn't understand why he felt the need to wear a disguise at all. Aoi knew exactly why. She remembered the harsh words she had thrown at him, so his choice made sense. Lily tried to apologize for her part in the misunderstanding. Karen stepped in, offering comfort, telling her it would all work out in the end. She compared it to her own relationship with her sister. They fight constantly, yet somehow they always find a way to make up. That's just how it is with siblings. As they talked, a boy ran past them, chased by his sister. The sight stirred a memory in Aoi. When she and Renji were little, whenever they fought, he would always approach her with a game in hand, asking her to play. But she couldn't help but wonder if it would be the same now that they have grown up. However, when she gets home, she quietly reads a book when she's disrupted by a sudden knock at her door. Renji stands there, holding a game, and asks if she wants to play. After a moment's hesitation, she agrees and soon they're sitting together, controllers in hand. In between their focused and light conversation, Aoi finally asked about Renji's disguise. Renji hesitates, fumbling for words, then explains that it was because of her earlier warnings. With this, Aoi clarifies that she never meant it seriously. Despite knowing about his misunderstandings with Lily, she assures him she trusts him completely. The words move Renji and his eyes well up. However, the sudden emotion distracts them both and they lose the match. With the game over, Aoi takes the opportunity to warn Renji not to hurt Lily. Though startled, Renji agrees, and with a satisfied look on her face, Aoi suggests they continue playing. In the game, Aoi soars through bright blue skies, shooting down incoming enemies. Lily follows close behind, ready to shield her from danger. Their teamwork flows naturally, and it almost feels like they've cleared the stage, until a sudden warning flashes on the screen. The skies darken, and the calm turns into dread. From the ocean, a massive robotic figure emerges, locking its sights on them. It attacks relentlessly, forcing them into a frantic defense. Lily counters with a powerful strike, but the enemy fires back, its attack hitting Aoi directly. Thrown off balance, Aoi apologizes as her character plunges into the vast ocean below, while Lily is left hovering alone against the towering enemy. Seeing Aoi fall into the ocean, Lily is filled with rage. Determined to avenge her friend, she pushes forward without hesitation, activating every weapon she has. Bright streams of energy fire from all directions as she unleashes her attack. Multiple rays of light strike the robot, and after several direct hits, it finally bursts into pieces. However, from its ruins emerges another opponent. Its sudden appearance catches her completely off guard, and before she can react, its glowing eyes charge up to fire a deadly laser. At the last second, a powerful shot interrupts the attack. Lily looks up and spots an aerial craft approaching fast. Inside is Renji, calling her name. With his arrival, he quickly takes over the fight. Yet the danger only grows. The octopus seems to summon more machines, and soon the sky is swarming with them. Renji tells Lily to stay back as he moves forward, firing slow but precise shots. One by one, the enemies vanish until their overwhelming numbers finally begin to thin. Lily watches in awe as Renji dominates the match. With a swift motion, he launches a powerful strike at the largest enemy. When the game ends, Renji turns to Lily. She assures him she won't make her upset, but instead, she complains. She and Aoi had been aiming for a 1-credit clear together, yet Renji swooped in, stole all the points, and made their effort pointless. Renji hadn't meant for that to happen, but both Aoi and Lily are equally annoyed. The next day in class, Aoi is noticeably in a better mood already. Hotaru, listening from her seat, quietly feels happy for her. But her smile fades when Aoi casually mentions the game center. Hearing about it instantly makes Hotaru pause in disbelief. That day, Lily, Aoi, and Karen plan to stop by the game center as usual. But just as they are about to leave, Hotaru blocks their way. Hotaru explains that she has been receiving reports from the PTA about students from her class loitering at the game center. For her, it is a serious problem. She even shows a disappointed look, her voice trembling as though she might cry. The three are stunned. To them it seems harmless, after all, no school rule forbids going there. But Hotaru presses her point, insisting that it reflects poorly on their class. Finally, Karen steps in. She tells Hotaru she's being far too uptight. She explains that visiting the game center is part of Lily's cultural exchange plan. Since Lily is a foreign student, she's trying to learn about life in Japan, not just in the classroom, but also through everyday places like the arcade. Hotaru frowns, arguing there must be better places for cultural learning. But Karen counters sharply, saying the game center was only one stop. They take Lily everywhere, and perhaps she was only spotted there once. Hotaru reluctantly accepts their excuse, and the three girls prepare to leave. But just before they can go, Hotaru calls out again. This time, she insists on coming along. If they claim the game center is part of Lily's cultural study, then she wants proof. Arriving at the arcade, players crowd around machines, absorbed in their games. Hotaru's eyes widen as she takes in the scene. Karen watches her carefully and assumes she has never been to a game center before. Judging by her startled expression, she must have imagined something far different. Which is true, Hotaru imagined the game center to be something dangerous, with gangsters in dark corners. But all she finds is ordinary fun. Karen immediately calls out Hotaru for holding stereotypes. Flustered, Hotaru admits it, though she still doubts there's anything worth learning in such a place. Her smug expression makes Aoi think harder. Surely there must be some kind of educational game here. Just as she's wondering, Renji arrives at the perfect moment. Overhearing their conversation, he tells them he knows just the game. With this, he shows them a machine titled Quiz Witch Alchemy. Renji explains that the game is all about answering questions, with quizzes of all sorts. Since it's their first time, Karen suggests they try it as a team, taking turns at the button whenever someone knows the answer. The first quiz begins, and although Hotaru feels she recognizes the question, the correct answer escapes her. She doubts anyone else will know, yet Lily confidently selects Kuwala from the choices. The screen immediately flashes red, signaling a wrong answer. Hotaru tenses, her disapproval is clear. Karen and Aoi, however, remain calm, treating it lightly since it is only a game and mistakes are bound to happen. Watching them, Hotaru reflects on the situation. This is not a classroom or a practice. It is just a game, and it is natural to mess up sometimes. With this realization, she regrets her earlier reaction and offers Lily an apology. But Lily doesn't seem to mind, only excited for the next round. They continue playing, and the next question is answered swiftly and correctly by Aoi. Soon after, Karen also manages to get the following one right without hesitation. Hotaru begins to feel the pressure building inside her, realizing that she is the only one who has yet to contribute an answer. Determined not to fall behind, she takes the chance on the next question, and to her relief, her choice turns out to be correct. When they finally clear the stage, the group celebrates together. Their voices are filled with excitement. Yet, as the compliments pour in, she grows embarrassed, so Karen gently reassures her with comforting words. Meanwhile, not far away, Renji quietly observes the scene, and seeing their joy, he cannot help but smile to himself. The next day at school, Lily admits that her allowance is running low, so they decide to drop the idea, only to hear Hotaru calling out to them. She looks visibly disappointed upon learning that they are not heading to the game center that day. Realizing Hotaru wants to go back, the three agree to go with her. Yet when they arrive, Hotaru doesn't walk alongside them. Karen notices and calls her out, prompting Hotaru to rush forward with an excuse. She insists that to properly evaluate whether the place is truly useful for learning, they must try all the machines at least once. The three are shocked to see how serious Hotaru is, especially when Karen flips through her notes and confirms that every game listed is indeed available in the game center. They begin with a fighting game, where Karen faces off against Aoi. Aoi puts up a strong effort, but Karen still wins. Observing closely, Hotaru remarks that such a game could even improve typing speed and hand coordination. Karen hesitantly agrees before suggesting that Hotaru give it a try. Hotaru reluctantly steps in, going against Lily, while Karen and Aoi cheer and coach them. However, Hotaru quickly realizes it is harder than it looks. Meanwhile, two other players nearby watch their match with interest, admiring the group's energy while silently resolving to stay ahead. Their next stop is the rock-paper-scissors game. Hotaru steps up first, but to her surprise, she instantly loses. Frustrated, she begins to suspect the machine of cheating. Lily, playing beside her, struggles just as much, while Aoi points out that the game is practically impossible to win. Determined not to give up, Hotaru declares she will avenge Lily, dropping another coin into the machine. Yet again, she loses without a chance. Eventually, the four of them slump into a quiet corner, airing complaints about the unfair game. Still, Lily remains optimistic, insisting that one day they can beat it. Karen and Aoi, however, are convinced it cannot be done. At that moment, Renji appears and greets them warmly. Curtin immediately challenges him to play, but he turns her down, explaining he has work. Instead, Lily asks if there are any new koala games. Arriving at the game, Hotaru realizes it is a crane machine. At first, she doubts it holds any educational value, but Karen counters that everything in the world has the potential to become educational. To Aoi's surprise, Hotaru accepts this reasoning immediately. Encouraged, Lily steps up and demonstrates how to play. She carefully positions the crane and manages to drop it right above the plush. But despite the perfect placement, the claw fails to hold the koala. Aoi tries to cheer her up, but Karen reminds her of the harsh reality. Hotaru, however, is still trying to uncover meaningful lessons from the failure, even if Karen and Aoi both find it completely irrelevant. Then Renji suddenly appears, and when Lily begins crying in front of him, he quietly opens the glass barrier of the crane game and retrieves the koala plush for her. Hotaru instantly stiffens, insisting that this is favoritism, but Renji explains it is part of store policy. Once a regular spends a certain amount of money on a game, employees are permitted to help. Karen quickly reframes Renji's action as something educational. In the end, Lily happily gets her plush, and the others encourage Hotaru to try the crane game herself. However, she refuses, explaining that she would get in trouble if she brought home a plush, even though she admits she likes colas too. The girls try to think of alternatives, but realize sneaking one home would be far too noticeable. With that, Renji suggests a solution. A game similar to the crane machine, the prize is a koala keychain that would hardly be noticed. Seeing this could work, Hotaru gives it a try. Yet despite her efforts, she fails to win a single one. The group cheers her on, and though she hesitates to continue, Karen's encouraging gaze makes her reflect that perhaps the game is teaching her perseverance. Hotaru takes one final attempt, this time with stronger determination, and at last, a keychain detaches and falls neatly into the prized chute. Her friends celebrate with her. Hotaru tries to hide her unhappiness, but deep inside, she wonders whether it is truly acceptable for her, the class president, to have that much fun. After the game, the group feels exhausted and decides to grab drinks from the vending machine. They believe they had enough fun for the day. Hotaru opens her notebook to record everything she observed, and she thanks everyone for letting her experience something so enjoyable for once. However, as she scans her notes, Aoi notices the last item on her list hasn't been tried yet. When Lily peeks at the page, she finds out it's a photo booth. Excited, Lily suggests they go together, and Aoi immediately agrees. Hotaru also wants to join, though she doubts its educational value. But before she can say much more, Lily is already pulling her toward the booth. As they reach the booth, Hotaru is immediately stunned. Aoi and Lily eagerly explore different poses on the small monitor. Curtin, however, declares she will not join, though Aoi tries to encourage her. She echoes Hotaru's earlier sentiment that it doesn't seem very educational. Surprisingly, Hotaru shifts her perspective and suggests that perhaps the booth can teach them about teamwork after all. Karen insists that learning teamwork inside a photo booth is impossible. However, Aoi reassures her that they've already studied enough for the day. Lily also urges Karen to take a photo with them, relying on her natural charm to convince her. Karen tries to resist, but Hotaru unexpectedly joins in, teaming up with Lily and playfully using her own cuteness against her. With 2 against 1, Karen finally gives in. Once inside, they quickly realize how cramped the booth is, making it a little uncomfortable. Hotaru tries to give reminders wanting everyone to pose properly. The first prompt is a bunny pose. Karen hesitates, clearly embarrassed, while the others eagerly do their best to mimic the pose. Lily in particular pulls it off flawlessly, until, at the very last second, she suddenly hops toward the camera like a real bunny. The flash captures her mid-jump, leaving the result as a blurry shot. In one photo, their eyes appeared ridiculously huge, and in another, Renji unexpectedly ended up in the background. Looking over the pictures they had taken so far, Aoi admitted she hadn't expected it to be so tricky. Hotaru then explains her thoughts on how to achieve the perfect photo. Finally, it is time for their last pose. Hotaru feels pressure to make it flawless, but Aoi gently reminds her to relax. Taking a deep breath, Hotaru realizes it is alright to mess up sometimes. Just as the camera flashes, Lily suddenly lunges forward like a real wolf, throwing the shot into chaos. The next day in class, 2 students approach Hotaru while she scrolls through her phone. They notice the koala keychain hanging from her pencil case and start asking questions about it. Hotaru, however, grows uneasy and avoids giving a clear answer. After all, she spent her entire allowance trying to win it. The 2 assume it must be some kind of premium item and leave satisfied with their guess. Once they're gone, Hotaru quietly returns to her phone, her gaze lingering on the clumsy photo of the 4 of them crammed into the photo booth yesterday. That morning, Lily's mom wakes her up and she rises from bed to get ready. Somewhere else, Renji's mother also wakes him, urging him to prepare for school. As Lily washes her face, Renji brushes his teeth. At the breakfast table, Lily finds her English breakfast waiting with eggs, toast, and tea. Meanwhile, Renji sits with Aoi to enjoy their Japanese meal of rice, meat, and soup. Lily is spreading butter on her bread when her dad, Oliver, casually brings up her upcoming birthday. Excited, she brightens and her mom, Cheryl, asks about the party, so she mentions that she has already invited all her friends. Cheryl smiles as she sets down the Marmite for the toast. While Lily savors her salty breakfast, Renji also takes a bite of his sour food. That night, while Lily is in her room, Cheryl walks in and catches her writing something. Startled, Lily quickly crumples the paper in her hand and throws it in the trash. She complains that her mom barged in without knocking, but Cheryl did knock. Lily was simply too busy to even notice. Cheryl's eyes then drift to the trash can, spotting a pile of crumpled papers. With a knowing smile, she immediately sees through what Lily is trying to do. Flustered, Lily stammers and urges her mom to leave. The next morning, Lily and Renji meet at the game center. However, Lily keeps her distance, just watching behind him. Renji can feel her eyes on his back, but every time he turns around, she looks away as if hiding something. Confused, he wonders if he somehow upset her again. From behind, though, Lily looks more nervous than angry. When it's time to leave, Renji wonders why Lily didn't show up again. But suddenly, he feels a tug at his sleeve. To his surprise, it's Lily slipping him an envelope with his name written on it. Renji accepts it with curiosity. At a bench in the park, Renji reads the letter as Lily waits nervously. The envelope contains an invitation to Lily's birthday, asking him to celebrate at her home while also mentioning that her friends, including Aoi, will be attending. Renji assumes this must be the reason Lily has been acting nervously. Lily herself doesn't even realize how strange her behavior has been, though she quietly admits it. Relieved, Renji lets out a silent breath. All day, he had worried that he might have done something wrong. As his eyes scan the words, he notices how much Lily's Japanese handwriting has improved. Lily waits for an answer, and after Renji confirms that he will be there, Lily's heart lights up and she leaps in excitement. Before leaving, she glances back at Renji, making sure he will truly be there. Once reassured, she turns away and heads home, while Renji can only wave goodbye. However, as Renji rereads the letter, he suddenly realizes it isn't a normal party. Aside from himself, the only other guests will be Lily's middle school friends, and her father will surely be there. The thought makes him question if he will really be fine. The next day at school, preparations for Lily's birthday are already underway. Hotaru takes the lead, and the class joins in with excitement. Though Karen seems puzzled about why she should attend, Aoi makes sure that she will be there. To start, the group agrees to coordinate their gifts so Lily doesn't receive duplicates. With that, they begin deciding what to give her. They all know Lily has a lot of koala merchandise, so they agree not to buy any, as there is a high chance she already owns plenty. Karen suggests that each of them simply choose what they personally want to give, and she herself already has something in mind, some gaming items. The others find this surprisingly thoughtful. After all, it's the thought that matters. With this, Hotaru decides to gift her a set of stationery, while Aoi considers giving Lily a piece of cosmetic. Meanwhile, Mikakuri and Megane remain undecided. Just then, Lily suddenly enters the classroom. The girls panic and rush to erase everything they wrote on the board to hide their planning. Each gives excuses, but their lies are so unconvincing that Lily looks more confused now. On the day of Lily's birthday, her home is filled with decorations, and the girls, along with Renji, sing her a birthday song. When the song ends, Cheryl leads a lively hip hip, hooray, which is usually practiced in the UK by all the guests to give their cheer. After that, Lily blows out her candles and thanks everyone. Aoi happily remarks how glad she is to celebrate Lily's special day, and the others agree. Cheryl soon arrives carrying a bowl of food, amazing most of the girls. Karen, however, seems unimpressed until Aoi gives her a playful shake. Renji encourages everyone to enjoy, all while handing Lily a small bowl of fruit. His thoughtful gesture makes Mikakuri and Megane exchange curious glances, wondering what kind of relationship Lily and Renji have, as they seem to be pretty close. Likewise, Lily also offers Renji a piece of cake. Renji politely refuses at first, saying he prefers to save the cake for last, but Lily doesn't take no for an answer. Instead, she cuts a small piece with her fork and feeds him herself. The others quickly assume they are flirting, and even Renji is caught off guard. For a moment, he imagines how Oliver would have reacted if he had seen them like this. He would most likely fume with anger and scold him. With that in mind, Renji asks where her father is, but Lily explains that he is still at work since they will hold a separate family celebration tomorrow. Relieved that he is safe, Renji finally accepts the cake from her. Mikakuri and Megane notice how easily Renji understands Lily even when she speaks in English. Lily, in turn, proudly talks about Renji, leaving the two even more curious about what their true relationship might be. As the group eats each dish with smiles, Cheryl keeps bringing in more food for everyone to enjoy. Lily continues to feed Renji despite his attempts to tell her she can stop, but even Cheryl remarks how delighted Lily looks while doing so. The table chatter carries on cheerfully until the food is nearly gone and Renji leans back, rubbing his stomach to show his fullness. At that moment, Cheryl leans close to Lily and whispers something, prompting Lily to excuse herself from the table. Before leaving, she tells everyone to wait for her and make themselves at home. Her words leave the group slightly confused since it is her own birthday party. To pass the time, Karen pulls out the game she had prepared, ready for everyone to enjoy together. They sit down to play the game and Karen seizes the chance to finally defeat Renji. Renji insists they are just guests celebrating Lily's birthday, but Karen argues that celebrating her victory is just as fitting, startling everyone in the room. Hotaru mentions that they rarely get opportunities to play together, and since there are enough controllers for everyone, they should enjoy it. Excited, Karen declares she will beat them all. The match begins, yet in the end, Renji still becomes the winner. Karen bursts out in frustration, and even Hotaru admits they never managed to beat him even once. With this, Aoi leans closer to Renji and quietly tells him to go easy on her friends. Still, Karen demands a rematch, though Renji says he wants to take a short break. The others begin to suspect he is a pro, but he quickly denies it. Following this, a voice praises him from behind. Everyone turns to see that Lily has returned, now dressed in something unusual. They are all in awe of how adorable Lily looks in her outfit. Cheryl explains that in the UK, one way of celebrating a birthday is through cosplaying. Since Lily wants her friends to experience a British-style birthday party, she chooses to dress as Alice in Wonderland. Renji quickly understands the idea, though Aoi insists he give Lily a proper compliment. Feeling the pressure, Renji blurts out that she looks even cuter than usual, almost like the real Alice. However, Lily frowns at how exaggerated his words sound, leaving Renji to apologize awkwardly. Cheryl, amused by the moment, suddenly suggests that everyone else should wear costumes too. In an instant, each of them dons Alice in Wonderland-themed outfits. Hotaru becomes the White Rabbit, while Mikakuri and Megane take the roles of the March Hare and the Dormouse. Karen becomes the Mad Hatter. But when it comes to Renji, his costume is a koala. Renji grumbles about his outfit, pointing out that he does not match the Wonderland theme. Even so, Lily can't help but admire how it looks on him. Since every character from the story was already taken, Renji had no choice, but Lily seems to like his costume better than the others. Cheryl then pulls out her phone and snaps a group photo of them in costume. Just after, Aoi announces that the girls have prepared presents for Lily. Renji excitedly blurts out that he brought one too, but Aoi insists he should go last. With that, the gift-giving begins. Lily first opens Karen's present, the largest box. Inside, she finds a game controller. Karen explains that it's for her to practice arcade games at home. Next, Lily unwraps Hotaru's gift, which is a set of stationery. Hotaru thinks this will be helpful for Lily's learning about Japan, though Lily finds it too cute to even use. While Lily opens Aoi's present, she finds a lip balm and instantly thanks Aoi warmly. The next two gifts are from Mikakuri and Megane, and their sizes spark Lily's excitement. She begins with Megane's box, which reveals a small pot of traditional Japanese food. Inside are red pebble-like pieces that she mistakes for fruit. Next comes Mikakuri's gift. She admits she struggled to decide on something meaningful but wanted to give Lily something more familiar to her. When Lily pulls it out, she finds a jar of Marmite. Now that everyone's gifts are open, Renji suggests she open his next. He hands her a small paper bag, which Lily immediately unwraps. Inside is a handkerchief with koala prints. Lily is instantly delighted, recognizing it as a limited edition item from amusement arcades. Hugging the gift, Lily promises to take good care of it. Watching this, Mikakuri and Megane are astonished at how well Renji must know Lily to have chosen such a special item. Lily and Renji take photos together with his gift, while Mikakuri and Megane keep whispering about them. The others also seem to be enjoying themselves, and that's when Aoi approaches Cheryl, asking if it is okay with Lily's dad that they are celebrating without him. Cheryl assures her it's fine. His enthusiasm always gets things out of control, so he shouldn't be around. She even mentions that he has his own costume prepared for Lily's birthday. But as she thinks about it, Cheryl suddenly realizes she may have told Oliver the wrong date for their family party. Just then, Oliver barges inside. He finished work early and comes home wearing his koala costume. But upon seeing Lily's friends, he freezes in embarrassment and retreats. But then he spots Renji among them. He scolds him instantly, especially after noticing they are wearing the same costume. However, Lily pays no attention to her father and simply asks Renji for another photo. This infuriates Oliver further, and unable to hold it in, he bursts into a fit of rage. The next day, Lily wakes up to her alarm as usual. She stretches before her gaze lands on the presents she received from yesterday's birthday party, and she can't help but smile. Heading into the dining room for breakfast, she remembers Megani's gift and decides to try the red pebble-like food she received. Meanwhile, Renji is also having breakfast, but instead of his usual rice and meat, he is spreading Marmite on a slice of bread. He had seen some at the store earlier and decided to give it a try. Curious, the two end up tasting each other's traditional foods. However, their faces quickly change. Lily finds her food far too sour, while Renji nearly winces at how salty the Marmite tastes. Both wonder aloud how the other can eat something that tastes that bad. The screen displays different characters from the Otokoji game as Renji and one of his colleagues host a tournament at the game center. They open the program with a cheerful greeting, and the crowd instantly responds with loud cheers. Among the players, Aoi notices Lily trembling. Though Lily insists she isn't nervous, Aoi gently tells her to calm down and take a deep breath to steady herself. Meanwhile, Karen seems distracted when Aoi tries talking to her, but she explains that she's fine, just excited about the challenge ahead. Renji begins calling out the players for each block, and Aoi and Lily prepare to head to their machines while Karen waits for her turn. Unlike Aoi and Lily, Karen appears determined to win against everyone that day. As staff members start designating players to their assigned setups, and Aoi walks through the busy floor. On her way, she overhears whispers about well-known experts also competing in the tournament. Aoi reaches her designated block, and to her surprise, she finds Lily sitting on the opposite side of the machine. It turns out they are paired against each other in the first match. Aoi feels conflicted as she only entered the tournament to support Lily, who spent so much time preparing for this. Yet deep down, she knows Lily wouldn't want her to hold back either, so Aoi decides to give it her all. Aoi chooses her favorite character, Nanko, while Lily selects Koala. The match begins, but within seconds, Lily suffers a quick defeat. Disappointed, Lily accepts the loss and simply wishes Aoi good luck. As the elimination round continues, the surroundings grow louder with players battling across different blocks. In Block B, two strong contenders finally face off. They're Megane and Data. Data boasts about his superior win rate and calculated strategies, but Megane insists that there's more to victory than numbers alone. But despite their rivalry, both players share the same habit of constantly adjusting their glasses. Megane selects Nyanko while Data picks Chicken. The match begins, and though Data boasts statistics, he struggles to keep up with Megane's speed. Megane then delivers a decisive finishing move, proving his point that numbers alone can't win games. The crowd erupts as Megane claims victory. The audience is shocked by the result. Among the so-called heavenly kings of arcade games, Data was considered the strongest, so seeing him fall so quickly leaves the fans buzzing. Meanwhile, Aoi advances further than she expected, reaching the third round. There, she faces a tough opponent named Rainy, who is popular among the crowd. Known for his years of experience, Rainy and Aoi have a huge gap in terms of skill. Aoi once again chooses Nyanko, while Rainy picks Fox. The match begins, and despite her determination, Aoi loses. Still, Rainy approaches Aoi and compliments her, drawing applause from the crowd that she doesn't understand. Then he strikes a pose, showing off the name printed on the back of his shirt, sending the audience into wild cheers, while Aoi remains puzzled by the gesture. Throughout the day, the game center continues to buzz with energy as the tournament progresses, with each block steadily advancing toward the final rounds of the day. Karen steps in for the block's final round, facing off against an expert gamer from out of town who competes under the codename The Blindfold. Known for playing with his eyes covered, he is rumored to have incredible vision. Renji and his partner heighten the tension with commentary, speculating whether the Blindfold can also see through Karen's strategies. As the match begins, Karen selects her character, Gorilla, while her opponent confidently brags about his skill. His arrogance quickly irritates Lily, who shouts for Karen to prove him wrong. The game escalates, and despite his reputation, the Blindfold struggles to counter Karen's moves. Karen accepts her victory with composure, while Aoi and Lily rush to congratulate her. Around the arcade, players from other blocks also wrap up their matches. Aoi and Lily, though already eliminated, reflect on how much fun the tournament has been and shift their focus to supporting Karen, determined to cheer her all the way through. They soon realize Karen is missing and begin searching for her in the crowd. What they don't know is that she has slipped away to talk to Renji. Karen tries to persuade him to join the tournament as she wants to take the opportunity to defeat him in a match. However, Renji reminds her that employees are not allowed to participate. Karen, unwilling to back down, suspects he is simply avoiding her and boldly makes a bet. If she wins the finals, Renji must accept her challenge. Renji stands puzzled, unable to understand why Karen is so determined. She then confesses that there is a hidden fire inside her, a pressure that will explode if she never gets the chance to face him. Shocked by this, Renji reluctantly agrees. With this promise, Karen's determination burns brighter. After a short break, the tournament finals are about to begin, and the announcers introduce the players who made it through all the rounds. First is Megane, an expert at chaining combos with precision. Next is Kohai, who may look nerdy but consistently proves himself a strong competitor. Then comes Karen, the middle schooler whose skill rivals that of seasoned players. Finally, a surprising dark horse enters the stage, Momoko, who has only been playing for a month. The crowd buzzes with curiosity about Momoko, but Karen's focus shifts, remembering how Renji told her employees weren't allowed to join. Turns out, Momoko isn't working today, so she's allowed to join. Momoko greets Karen cheerfully, leaving her wondering how she had even managed to climb this far into the competition. Soon, the pairings are announced. Karen faces Kohai, while Momoko goes up against Megane. With that, the finals officially begin. Within minutes, Karen secures a swift victory, landing an instant kill on Kohai. Curious about the other match, she turns to watch. Among the crowd, Data predicts that Megane will most likely win based on his statistics. Yet, to everyone's surprise, is Momoko who overcomes the odds, defeating Megane and advancing further into the tournament. Megane analyzes her moves and realizes she possesses high mechanics. Renji comments that Momoko's background in kendo and physical training must have sharpened her intuition. Karen is intrigued but stays confident that Momoko will only be a stepping stone for her real goal of challenging Renji. The finals begin, and now it's Karen versus Momoko. The crowd is unsure of who to cheer for. Even Renji admits both girls are incredibly skilled, making this a matter of pacing and adaptability. Karen sticks to her gorilla character, while Momoko picks Wanko. The opening round is intense. Wanko is strong, but is quite a difficult character to control, and while Momoko's intuition is sharp, Karen doubts if she can execute the powerful combos effectively. Karen studies every movement, analyzing Momoko's timing and patiently waits for her to attempt one of Wanko's heavy attacks. Only then will she have the perfect chance to strike with a decisive counter. However, it is easier said than done, as Karen struggles to keep up with Momoko's relentless attacks. Instead of waiting for an opening, she finds herself overwhelmed when Momoko perfectly pulls off a combo, chaining it into a torrent of strikes. The first round quickly ends in Momoko's favor, leaving the audience shocked and questioning if she really has been playing for only a month. From the podium, Renji points out that Momoko likely noticed Karen's plan to wait and counter, yet her execution and timing outshone it. The audience never saw the outcome coming. Even Aoi and Lily grow anxious, unsure of what the next round will bring. Just as whispers stir the crowd, the second round of the game begins. This time, Karen shifts her strategy, choosing to go offensive and charge head-on. As she reflects on her earlier hesitation, Karen realizes that playing aggressively has always been her strength. Her punches and combos land with such speed that Momoko barely has time to recover. Within moments, Karen dominates the match and wins the round. The audience erupts in cheers once more. All eyes lock on Karen, who just leveled the score with a commanding performance. Even the commentators are impressed, with Renji noting how her return to her trademark aggressive style helped her win the round. He points out that Karen shines most when she pushes forward. Now that both players are tied with one win each, the tension rises. Now in the third round of the finals, Karen charges in with her usual aggressive style. But this time, Momoko counters her moves. Karen doesn't expect her to adapt so quickly, but she doesn't give in. She swiftly spins around and regains control of the fight. With one final push, Karen secures the win. The crowd gasps as Momoko rises from her chair. Many assume she'll lash out in frustration, but instead she simply squeezes her cheeks before calmly sitting back down. The match presses on into round 4 and the crowd's cheers only grow louder. By round 6, the tension is so fierce that even the blindfold removes his blindfold. Rounds 7 and 8 race by, with Karen and Momoko completely overtaken by the game, as though they have truly become Gorilla and Wanko locked in battle. Now comes round 9, the final showdown. Both players stare each other down, waiting for the other to strike. Finally, Wanko leaps forward, but Gorilla swiftly dodges. A blow lands, making Gorilla stagger, yet he instantly counters. Wanko retaliates with a crushing punch, forcing Gorilla back. Soon, Wanko transforms, charging in to finish the match, but Gorilla unleashes his combo. Just as Wanko dives in for the kill, Gorilla lands a decisive punch, slamming Wanko to the ground, only for Gorilla to strike again with relentless attacks. With one desperate move, he springs back to deliver a sharp kick. The two clash in a furious exchange, their punches so swift and precise that neither seems willing to give up. Back and forth they go, until their strength begins to fade and exhaustion etches on every movement. At the game center, Karen and Momoko slump in their chairs, drained from the match. The crowd holds its breath until the final result is announced. Karen is the winner. The room erupts in cheers, and even seasoned players clap in respect for her victory. Momoko, despite her loss, congratulates Karen. As the excitement settles, chatter buzzes through the arcade. Players can't stop talking about the amazing match. Then Momoko makes her way to Lily and Aoi. She asks them where Karen is, eager to speak with her. But to everyone's surprise, Karen vanished from the crowd immediately after her win. As it turns out, Renji brings Karen into a secluded room where a special game cabinet is reserved for staff testing. No one else is allowed inside, making it the perfect place for their long-awaited match. Karen's face lights up as Renji keeps his promise after her victory. Without hesitation, she takes her seat in front of him, and the two begin their battle in silence. Sometime later, Lily and Aoi finally spot Karen again, but she avoids their eyes and her tears glisten as she walks away. Moments later, Renji also appears with a concerned expression. Lily wonders what happened to Karen, but Aoi seems to understand everything so clearly. Walking home alone, Karen keeps replaying the match in her mind. She feels like her skills and strategies weren't enough, and the pain of losing shakes her deeply. Still, instead of giving up, the fight with Renji only makes her more determined to improve and challenge him again. The next day, Lily and her friends share a bath together. In the men's section, only Renji and Oliver soak in the tub. The silence feels awkward, but Renji tries to act as though nothing is wrong. Breaking it, Renji suddenly insists he already has Cheryl's permission, though Oliver clearly knows that. Renji can't shake the thought that Oliver remains upset. When his eyes fall on the faint marks along Oliver's shoulder, Renji grows curious about the kind of work Oliver really does. That evening in the bath, Oliver brings up their earlier encounter. Renji braces himself, certain Oliver will be furious when he learns Renji mistook him for a bear. To his surprise, Oliver seems flattered instead. What puzzles him is why Renji didn't simply run. Renji tries to brush it off as instinct, but Oliver assumes it was a deliberate choice to shield the others. The moment reminds Oliver of when he nearly struck Lily and how Renji had stepped in to protect her then as well. Curious, Oliver asks directly what Renji really feels about Lily. Rather than answering, Renji finds himself distracted, noticing how Oliver's eyes are the same shade as Lily's. The next day, the group heads to the beach. Himari playfully asks Renji to rub sunscreen on her back. Feeling a stab of jealousy, Lily demands the same treatment, sparking a lighthearted argument between the two. Flustered, he excuses himself, claiming he'll fetch drinks. In the days that follow, the group makes the most of their time together. They enjoy their days there playing games, strolling along the shore, and exploring new places side by side. At the beach, the group plays a lively game of volleyball, laughing as they fumble serves and chase the ball across the sand, while Renji watches quietly from the side. On the way home, they come across several people in odd-looking costumes. Curious, Lily asks about them, and Renji explains they're dressed as deer are believed to be messengers of the gods. Aoi remembers when Lily spotted a deer from the train earlier in their trip, recalling that it was a sign of good luck. Lily beams, happy to hear this. The next day, Oliver returns from a short trip. When asked how it went, he answers with something so unexpected that the group bursts into uncontrollable laughter, even though Oliver can't understand what's so funny. Before he can press further, Himari arrives, urging everyone to hurry to the festival. Still giggling, Lily rushes off to get ready. Moments later, she reappears in a pink flowered kimono, while Aoi wears a blue pattern one. They compare matching keychains on their bags, with Lily's being a koala and Aoi's a kitten. Watching this with awe, Hotaru instantly becomes envious. Once everyone is ready, Lily eagerly suggests they leave right away so they can secure a good spot for the fireworks. But Renji points out it's far too early and that they should enjoy the festival first. Aoi, watching closely, suspects Lily has another reason, perhaps wanting to try the special tradition their grandmother once told them about fireworks. Smiling, Aoi reassures Lily that the fireworks won't start until dark. Besides, there are plenty of festival treats to enjoy first, like candy apples. True enough, the festival is lively, filled with bright stalls. Lily excitedly darts around, overwhelmed, until Renji gently warns her not to wander too far or she'll get lost. Later, the group gathers to watch a traditional dance performance. Performers appear in the same deer-like costumes Lily had seen earlier. Proudly, she repeats the word to her father in Japanese, leaving him amazed at her growing knowledge. While watching the festival performance, Cheryl can't help but be reminded of their own British celebrations. Oliver casually suggests that perhaps this Japanese festival takes its roots from similar traditions, but Grandma gently corrects him. She explains that this celebration was shaped by people who came from different parts of the world, bringing their customs together. At the stalls, Lily's eyes sparkle when she notices a stuffed koala. She stares at it longingly until Himari challenges her to play. But no matter how hard they try, both keep missing the target. Seeing their frustration, Renji steps in. To their surprise, he easily wins on his first attempt and hands the koala to Lily, making her beam with joy. Himari, however, immediately grows jealous and demands that Renji win her something as well. Renji suggests they all try the shooting gallery next. Hearing this, Oliver's interest sparks and he eagerly challenges Renji to a match. At the shooting gallery, Oliver narrows his focus, determined to knock down the chicken prize. Shot after shot, he hits the target, but it stubbornly refuses to fall. Frustrated, he curses under his breath, trying again and again. Then Renji takes his turn. With precision, he fires once and the chicken topples instantly. Convinced the game is rigged in Renji's favor, he mutters accusations of cheating. Renji hands the prized chicken to Himari, then turns to his sister, asking if there's anything she might want too. They continue strolling through the festival with snacks in hand when Aoi suddenly notices that Lily is no longer carrying her bag. Lily panics, rushing off to search for it. Renji notices her distress and quickly asks Aoi what happened. Once she explains, he immediately follows after Lily despite Aoi's concern. He reassures her he will handle it, telling her not to worry. Returning to the earlier game stall, Lily breathes a sigh of relief when she spots her bag resting on a table. She snatches it up and glances around, then proceeds to walk to find the others. Meanwhile, Aoi explains the situation to Oliver, though he remains visibly concerned. She gently reassures him that everything will be fine. Himari volunteers to help search since she knows the shrine's layout well, but Oliver still struggles to calm his worry. As they walk, Oliver suddenly recalls his earlier question to Renji about his feelings for Lily. Renji admitted he wasn't entirely sure yet. He explained that Lily's view of him might change someday. Still, he promised never to let her feel sad, and no matter what happened, he would do nothing to upset her. The answer left Oliver momentarily confused, and Renji grew uneasy under his gaze until Oliver unexpectedly burst into laughter. In truth, memories of Lily flashed vividly in his mind from her earliest days as a baby, through childhood, and now as a young woman. With a quiet smile, he told Renji to always watch over her for him. That memory strengthens Renji's resolve as he pushes through the crowd, searching for Lily. He rushes back to the spot where they had played games earlier, but to his shock, she's no longer there and so is her bag. Meanwhile, Lily is walking all alone, feeling low as she searches for familiar faces. Slowly, she scans the crowd one by one, but she can't seem to find anyone she knows. When she reaches the center of the shrine grounds, she bumps into someone. It turns out to be one of the deer costume dancers from earlier. She falls back in surprise, and the moment she sees the figure, she gets spooked and bolts, running as fast as she can away from him. Preoccupied with escaping, Lily doesn't notice that she runs right past Renji, who is also searching for her. They brush against each other in the crowd. Lily only stops when she suddenly notices the fireworks beginning. She lifts her gaze to the sky as the first bursts of color explode above. Around her, the people turn to watch, their faces glowing with wide smiles and laughter. Some couples even hold hands. Lily, however, can only stand there in silence, watching the fireworks alone, her heart weighed down by the loneliness she feels. At last, she can no longer contain them, and they stream down her cheeks. She whispers Renji's name into the night. Just as hope is slipping away, a hand suddenly reaches out to her. At that moment, the final firework balloons across the sky. After the last explosion fades, Renji suddenly realizes he is still holding Lily's hand. Embarrassed, he quickly lets go and apologizes. Lily, however, only smiles. Her cheeks become red as she pretends to recall something. She brings up their very first meeting when she received the answer on her card and then saw Renji for the first time. She admits she hadn't known how to feel about herself in that moment, so she ran away. Renji laughs at the memory, but Lily goes on, reminding him that he followed after her back then too. Renji tries to apologize again, but she shakes her head, saying it isn't wrong. After all, it's the same thing he just did tonight. The two of them pause, realizing how much has happened in the hack years since that day. Lily finally confesses that her feelings haven't changed at all since then. Renji braces himself for what she seems about to say next, but before the words can leave her lips, Himari rushes in and throws her arms around Lily, relieved to find. Then, Aoi awkwardly calls out to Renji from behind. It turns out they all decided to search for Lily anyway. From their faces, it's clear they may have heard everything. Worse, Oliver is among them. Renji immediately panics, asking Aoi how much they've seen, but before she can answer, Oliver steps forward. He approaches with a composed look and formally thanks Renji, though his tone drips with sarcasm. With that, he tells Lily they should head back since he bought fireworks they can set off at home. As they leave together, Aoi apologizes to her brother, but Renji brushes it off. Still, he is quite curious about what Lily would have said if the others hadn't shown up. Back at the house, they set off fireworks and sparklers. Everyone seems to enjoy themselves, but as Lily's sparkler burns low, she quietly links hers with Renji's. Oliver notices instantly and fury flashes across his face. When both sparklers finally fizzle out, the flame drops and Oliver, without thinking, catches it in his bare hand. Morning arrives and it is already time to head home. Everyone begins to prepare for the trip back. Himari cheerfully tells them she will visit soon so they can play games together again. Seeing this, Aoi can't help but remark on how quickly Himari and Lily have become such good friends. Lily is the first to leave with her parents in their car, while the others plan to follow later using public transport. They bid her goodbye, and Renji even attempts to say his farewell in English, though it comes out a little awkward. Afterward, the group teases him about it. On the road, Cheryl checks in on Oliver, who is still nursing his injured hand from the night before. They exchange jokes to pass the time, but when their laughter grows too loud, Cheryl reminds him to keep it down as Lily is already fast asleep in the back seat. Lily recalls a memory. Aoi was asking Renji for a toy at the game center. After some effort, Renji managed to win a koala keychain. Before he could hand it to Aoi, Lily's eyes lit up with excitement. Seeing her reaction, Renji offered the toy to Lily instead. Aoi looked a little annoyed, but when she noticed how happy Lily was, she let it go. Renji simply promised her to win another one, while Lily walked off cheerfully with her prize. The next day, Lily slips back into her usual habits. Her parents quietly watch as she storms out of the house, heading past familiar streets and friends until she arrives at the game center. There, she spots Aoi and Renji and quickly invites them to play with her. Thanks for watching. That's the complete season. Don't forget to subscribe if you enjoyed it.